Hello, my lovely, lovely subscribers. It is Chasey Poo. Do I ever, sometimes I feel like I do something so much that I don't really realize because it's like unconscious. Do I ever say my name in my videos on my personal channel? Like I know I do it for Transtastic, but I don't know. Do I? Who knows? This week I'm talking about something that I don't think I've ever talked about before, which is weird because I feel like I've talked about everything and my zipper is open. I'm gonna be talking about the act of misgendering and misnaming yourself in your head accidentally. I have had so many questions about this over the years that I don't know why it's like I've never thought about making a video about this. I mean, honestly, if I did make a video about this, like, don't tell me because I'll be really embarrassed because I feel like I've never talked about this before. So, first things first, what does it mean? So, let's say you're out as trans, and no matter where you are in your transition, it's usually happening in the early parts of transition. You are telling yourself a story in your head and you accidentally say she, or it's like an automatic response and you say she. I'm talking FTM here because that's the usual people who watch my videos, and you call yourself your own name. So let's say your name was Sabrina, and in your story, in your head, you're just like thinking about this and you're like saying, like, one of your friends is saying your name, and in your head you're like Sabrina, and you're like, oh no, that's not my name is Sebastian or something like that. People freak out from the comments that I've got. Like, people, like, it scares them a lot, and I'm here to tell you that I think it happens to most of us, and it happened to me, and I can actually pinpoint an exact time that I remember it happening. I was out, I wasn't on T yet, but I was like, I think about to have my first therapy session or something like that, and I remember leaving the pharmacy. I remember where I was on the South Shore, not that you know where that is, and I remember, I talk a lot to myself in my head. I don't know if a lot of people do that, but whatever, maybe this is just a video for me. I remember in my head calling myself my old name, and it was really weird because it was one of those like moments where I was finally telling people to like start calling me Chase and like use male pronouns, and then here I was doing the exact opposite of what I was telling other people to do, and I remember it freaking me out, and I was like, oh my fucking god, does this mean I'm not trans? And when I tell you I freaked out, I was like literally like questioning, and I know it's such a stupid thing to be like, oh my god, am I trans? Just because you like misgender yourself like once or twice occasionally. But it really freaked me out, and I was really doubting everything. I was like, oh my god, what does this mean? Am I not trans? Was everybody right? And by everybody, I mean like no one, because no one ever told me that I wasn't trans, or I mean like the internet did, but whatever. So that freaked me out, and it even happened even after I was on T, because I remember starting on T, and I was working at this company that they called me Chase before I was on T, and I started T while I was working there. But like, I thought that they called me he, but it's one of those like I thought that I passed, but when I look at pictures of myself now, I'm like, LOL, how did I think that I was passing? Because it was like very obvious, but they called me she, and it was like really weird to me because it was like, how can you call somebody whose name Chase a she? And it looked like whatever. So I don't know, at the moment it was very confusing to me, and it was hard for me to navigate that space because I had to use the female bathroom, but I had to keep living my life as male outside of the office, and like I kept being misgendered, and I was misgendering myself, and I had to, and at that job, because they thought my voice was so feminine, they actually asked me to do this like voiceover for like a company, like please press 1 or whenever. My voice is on somebody's answering machine thing for work somewhere on this planet. I have no idea where, but it's there, and that like really hurt. But after I left that job, I think it really helped to have people around me reinforce my name and my gender pronoun, whatever, because I stopped. And maybe it's because I was like furthering in my transition, or I worked at a job that they only knew me as male, like only like a couple people knew I was trans, and it was like scandalous because I thought whatever. And I don't know, like it felt really good to have my friends finally start using the pronouns, and I feel like maybe that's what clicked into my head, like this is real, this is happening. And it wasn't like I need to stop doing this, like obviously it was like that in the beginning, but it was more like it was like an automatic response. Like I didn't think about it. It went from like, and to be honest, like I know I'm like almost 5 years on T, almost 2 years post-op, like changed my name, changed my gender marker, like everything almost, like all of those things right now. But I've done it like recently, and I was like, what? And it's weird, and I do feel like it has influence over people. My dad calls me a version of my old name. It's like a nickname. It doesn't sound really like my old name. Like you wouldn't know what it was if you heard it. But I think hearing it so often, because I spent so many weekends with him after he was in the hospital, after hearing it like nonstop, it like freaked me out, and I started thinking of myself in that way, and it like really gave me anxiety, and I was like, I need to stop. I need to stop thinking about this. I need to stop, because I was like obsessing over it. I was like, I need to stop, like, because if I think about it too much, then I feel like it's something that'll never change. So with that, I'm kind of still struggling with that, but I'm starting to like really understand where it's from making this video, the influence of other people. So if you misgender yourself, if you misname yourself, it's fine. You're still trans, probably. Like, there's a very good percentage that you just did it and it's out of habit, or it's out of your environment that you're in and the people that you're around, the way you were socialized, the way people around you see you, and it sucks, but it's normal. And I feel like that's what I do with my videos. I talk about experiences that I've had, and I'm just like, don't worry, it's normal. But like, I'm weird. Like, what if these experiences aren't normal? I'm kidding, they're for sure normal. Anyways, that's all I have to say about misgendering and misnaming yourself. I've luckily not done it out loud, and that's like one of my biggest fears, to like accidentally be like she and be like, oh whoops. But I mean, like, I could like catch myself, like nobody, like if people don't know I'm trans, it was a joke and like whatever. Anyways, that's all I have to say. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you soon. If you want to audition for Transtastic, you can until March 31st, and if you have any topic suggestions, my crotch is open for you downstairs. Just do it in there. Okay, bye.